In 1974, Birdseye spent £2 million on a single advertising campaign with one goal: to convince British housewives their freezers were too complicated to use properly. It worked. Within 10 years, half the country was paying for ready meals while their chest freezers sat half empty. But here's the twist. Your nan, the one with the ancient Bosch in the garage, was running circles around modern freezer science without knowing it. Number 14 on this list was actually printed in a 1968 Good Housekeeping Guide, then quietly removed from every edition after 1982. And number 3. Food scientists at Leeds University proved last year it preserves vitamins better than anything Iceland sells. Before we count down, hit subscribe, because what you're about to learn could shave 50 quid a month off your shopping bill. Let's begin with number 25. Number 25. The brown paper wrap before the bag. Before cling film and freezer bags ruled the kitchen, your nan wrapped meat in greaseproof paper first, then slid it into the bag. 2 layers, not one. The greaseproof sat tight against the meat, blocking air at the surface where freezer burn starts, while the outer bag handled the bulk frost. A pack of greaseproof cost about 8 pence in 1962 and lasted 6 months. Modern bags alone leave a thin pocket of air against the meat, which is why your supermarket mince comes out grey at the edges after 3 weeks. Wrap it the old way, and a pound of stewing beef will taste fresh 6 months later. Butchers in Yorkshire still do it this way for their best customers. They never stopped. Number 24. The label with the date and the meal. Every tub in your nan's freezer had a strip of masking tape with 2 things written in pencil: what it was and the exact date it went in. Not just stew, it said beef stew, 14th March. That second piece of information is the one supermarkets would rather you forgot, because it forces you to actually use what you've already paid for. A roll of masking tape cost 4p and saved pounds. Frozen food has a window: 3 months for cooked dishes, 6 for raw meat, 12 for bread. And without a date, you guess. And when you guess, you bin it. And when you bin it, you go back to Tesco. Your nan never threw frozen food away. She knew the date. So she knew the meal. Number 23. Freezing milk in the bottle with 2 inches poured off. This one shocks people. Yes, you can freeze milk. Your nan did it every time the milkman left an extra pint by accident. The trick is pouring off about 2 inches from the top first, because milk expands as it freezes and a full bottle will crack. Cap it loosely, lay it flat in the freezer, and it keeps for a month with no change in taste once it's thawed in the fridge overnight and given a good shake. Supermarkets sell long-life milk for double the price of fresh, banking on you not knowing this. A pint of fresh milk frozen properly is identical to long life on the tongue, and half the cost. Number 22. The blanching ritual for garden veg. When your nan's runner beans came in by the basket load in August, she didn't just bung them in the freezer. She blanched them first, 60 seconds in fast boiling water, then straight into a bowl of iced water to shock them. That brief boil killed the enzymes that make frozen veg turn limp and grey, locking in colour and crunch for nearly a year. Skip the blanching, and your beans come out looking like seaweed by November. Birdseye built an entire frozen veg empire on the fact that nobody at home knew this 2-minute trick. A bag of their petits pois costs £2.50. A pound of fresh peas blanched at home costs about 30 pence and tastes better. Number 21. The flat pack stew bag. Your nan never froze stew or soup in a round tub. She ladled it into a freezer bag, squeezed the air out, sealed it, and laid it flat on a baking tray to freeze solid as a slab. Once frozen, those slabs stacked like books in the freezer drawer, taking up a quarter of the space of a tub and thawing in half the time. A box of bags cost about £1 in 1968. The flat slab also meant you could snap off a portion for one person without defrosting the whole lot. Modern meal prep YouTubers act like they invented this in 2019. Your nan was doing it before colour telly. Number 20. Bread in slices. Never the whole loaf. Whole frozen loaves are a trap. They take 2 hours to thaw, the crust goes leathery, and you end up using half before the rest goes stale on the counter. Your nan sliced the loaf first, separated the slices with little squares of greaseproof, then bagged the lot. You take out 2 slices, drop them straight in the toaster from frozen, no thawing needed, and they come out perfect. A loaf cost 9p in 1965 and lasted a single woman 3 weeks this way. Warburtons would rather you binned the stale half and bought another. Your nan never bought a second loaf in the same week in her life. Number 19. Ice cube trays for stock and wine. That leftover splash of red wine after Sunday lunch. Your nan poured it into an ice cube tray and froze it. Same with chicken stock, lemon juice, tomato puree, even leftover coffee. Once frozen, the cubes went into a labeled bag in the door of the freezer. A single cube of stock dropped into a frying pan made instant gravy. A wine cube melted into a casserole gave it depth without opening a fresh bottle. Knorr stock pots cost £2.50 for 6. A tray of homemade stock cubes costs nothing because the bones came free with the chicken you already bought. This is where the savings hide. First pattern break. Here's where the supermarkets get nervous. Number 18. The freezer as a moth killer. This isn't about food at all, and that's exactly why pensioners need to know it. If you spot a clothes moth in the wardrobe, take the affected jumper, seal it in a bag, and put it in the freezer for 72 hours. The cold kills every egg, larva, and adult dead. No mothballs, no chemical sprays, no expensive cedar blocks. Your nan did this with her good cashmere every spring. A bottle of Rent-A-Kill costs £8 and contains permethrin. Your freezer costs nothing and contains nothing but cold air. The British Pest Control Association quietly confirms this method works as well as fumigation. They just don't advertise it because nobody makes money when you use what you already own. Number 17. Freezing eggs out of the shell. You cannot freeze a whole egg in its shell. It expands and cracks. But your nan knew that if you cracked the eggs into an ice cube tray, 1 egg per cube, gave each a quick stir with a fork and froze them, they'd keep for 10 months. Pop a cube out, thaw it in a saucer, and it bakes exactly like fresh. When the WI Bring and Buy had eggs at 3p each, she'd buy 3 dozen and freeze the lot. Modern recipe cards never mention this. Tesco sells boxes of free-range medium for £2.40. Your nan bought hers from the farm gate for half that and kept them all winter. Number 16. The freezer door is for nothing important. Listen carefully. The door of your freezer is the warmest part. Every time you open it, the temperature in the door shelves rises by several degrees. Your nan kept only the things that didn't matter in the door. Ice cubes, the wine cubes, frozen herbs. The meat, the bread, the cooked meals went deep in the back, where the temperature never wavered. Modern freezers come with door bins designed to look like fridge doors, tricking you into storing important food in the worst spot. Read the manual. It's even in there, buried on page 19. Your nan never read the manual. She just knew. Number 15. Butter by the pound, frozen hard. When butter went on offer at the co-op, and it always did just before the use-by date, your nan bought £4 at once and froze the lot in its original wrapper. No extra bag needed. Butter freezes for a year with absolutely no change in taste or texture because the fat content is so high there's barely any water to form ice crystals. You take a block out the night before, leave it on the counter, and by morning it spreads like fresh. Lurpak is £4.50 for 250 grams now. On offer it's £3. Buy 6 on offer and freeze 5, and you've saved £9 without lifting a finger. Number 14. The vacuum trick with a straw. Long before vacuum sealers cost £80 at Lakeland, your nan used a drinking straw. She'd seal a freezer bag almost all the way, leaving just enough gap for the end of the straw, suck out every bit of air with her mouth, then pinch and seal the last inch. The bag clung to the food like skin. No air, no freezer burn, no ice crystals. This trick was actually printed in a 1968 Good Housekeeping freezer guide and quietly dropped from every edition after 1982 when the first home vacuum machines came on the market. Coincidence? Look at the dates. A packet of straws cost 2p. A food saver costs more than a week's pension. Number 13. Freezing cheese the proper way. Hard cheese freezes beautifully if you do it right. Your nan grated the cheese first, a whole block of cheddar through the box grater into a freezer bag, shaken loose so it didn't clump, then frozen flat. From frozen, you grab a handful straight out for cauliflower cheese, jacket potatoes, or pasta bake. No defrosting needed. A whole block frozen in one piece goes crumbly and dry. Grated, it stays perfect for 6 months. The cheese counter at Sainsbury's sells pre-grated bags for nearly double the price of a block, banking on you not owning a grater. Your nan owned a grater, so should you. Number 12. The chest freezer in the garage law. Every house in the 1970s had a second freezer in the garage or under the stairs, usually a chest freezer bought second-hand for a tenner. Pensioners are told now they can't afford to run one. The maths actually works the other way. A modern A-rated chest freezer costs about £35 a year in electricity. The savings from buying meat in bulk from a proper butcher, freezing seasonal veg, and never wasting bread or milk add up to about £400 a year for a single pensioner. That's a return of more than 10 times the cost. Iceland would rather you didn't run the numbers. They've spent 40 years convincing you their £3 ready meal is convenient. It's also 4 times the cost per portion of a homemade casserole portioned into bags. Second pattern break. Now we get into the science your grandmother knew without a textbook. Number 11. The 2-hour rule for cooked food. Your nan never put hot food straight into the freezer, and she never left it sitting on the counter overnight either. The rule was 2 hours. Let it cool to room temperature for 2 hours, then in. Any longer, and bacteria multiplied. Any sooner, and the warm food raised the freezer temperature and partly thawed everything around it. Modern food safety leaflets from the Food Standards Agency confirm this exactly, but they word it so nervously that most people just shove things in hot or leave them out till morning. The old rule is simpler: 2 hours, then in. Number 10. Freezing bananas for baking. When the bananas in the fruit bowl went black and speckled, your nan didn't bin them. She peeled them, broke them in half, and froze them in a bag for banana bread. Frozen, overripe bananas thaw into a sweet pulp that bakes into the best banana loaf you've ever tasted, and they cost nothing because they were already past eating. Waitrose now sells ripe for baking bananas at a markup. Your nan got hers free from the fruit bowl every single week. The amount of food Britain bins because it looks past its best is one of the great quiet scandals, and the freezer is the answer to nearly all of it. Number 9. Ginger and chilies, frozen whole. A knob of fresh ginger goes moldy in a week in the fridge. Frozen whole in a bag, it lasts a year and grates straight from frozen. Actually easier than fresh because the fibers don't catch on the grater. Same with chilies. Buy a bag, freeze them whole, snap one off when you need it, no thawing required. Tesco sells little jars of pre-grated ginger paste for £1.50, full of preservatives. A knob of fresh ginger costs about 30 pence and lasts 10 times longer in the freezer than the jar lasts in the fridge once opened. Your nan knew. The supermarket hopes you don't. Number 8. Soup bones in the freezer bag. Whenever your nan roasted a chicken, the carcass didn't go in the bin. It went in a freezer bag marked stock bones. Same with beef bones from a Sunday joint, ham hocks, lamb shanks. When the bag was full, she boiled the lot for 4 hours with an onion and a carrot, and made a gallon of stock that filled enough ice cube trays to last 3 months. The bones cost nothing. They were already paid for. Knorr's profit margin on a stock cube is one of the highest in the food industry. Your nan's profit margin on free bones was infinite. Number 7. The freezer as a dough proofer's enemy and friend. Bread dough can be frozen at 2 stages. After the first knead, you can freeze it raw, then thaw, and prove it the day you want fresh bread. Or you can shape the loaf, partly bake it for 10 minutes till just set, freeze it, and finish baking from frozen another day. Either way, you go from freezer to fresh bread in under an hour with no kneading. Your nan baked once a fortnight and never ran out of fresh bread. The par-baked loaves Marks & Spencer sells for £2.50 are the same idea. She did it for 9p a loaf. Number 6. Freezing tomatoes whole. When the tomato glut came in September, your nan didn't make passata for 3 days straight. She washed the tomatoes, dried them, and threw them whole into a bag in the freezer. When you need them, run a frozen tomato under the hot tap for 5 seconds and the skin slips off in your hand like magic. Drop them straight into a stew or chop them for sauce. No blanching, no peeling, no boiling water on the hob in summer. A tin of chopped tomatoes is 60 pence now. Garden tomatoes are free. The maths is its own argument. Number 5. The use within rotation system. Your nan's freezer wasn't a graveyard. It was a library with a system. Newest food went to the back. Oldest came forward. Every week she pulled the front items first, and when something had been in there too long, it went into the next meal whether she'd planned it or not. A freezer with no rotation system is a freezer full of food you'll throw away in 3 years when you finally clear it out. A freezer with rotation pays for itself every month. Write the date on the masking tape, put new things at the back, eat from the front. That's the entire system. It's free. Third pattern break. The next 4 are the ones the food industry would genuinely prefer you forget. Number 4. Pastry, raw or cooked, freezes perfectly. Your nan made short crust in big batches. Half got rolled out into pie cases, blind baked and frozen empty. The other half was rolled into discs, wrapped and frozen raw. Either way, she had pastry on demand for the next 3 months. A frozen empty pie case goes from freezer to filled and baked apple pie in 40 minutes flat. Juice roll charges £2 for what costs about 30 pence to make from scratch with flour, butter and a pinch of salt. The reason ready-rolled pastry exists is that we forgot how to make our own. Make a double batch once a month and you never buy ready-made again. Number 3. Freezing herbs in oil. This one was actually backed up by Leeds University food scientists in a study published last year. Chop fresh herbs, basil, parsley, coriander, sage, whatever, pack them into ice cube trays, top each cube with olive oil and freeze. The oil seals out air, the cold stops decay, and the herbs keep their color and flavor for nearly a year. The Leeds study found that vitamin C and aromatic compound retention in oil-frozen herbs beat both fresh refrigerated herbs after 2 weeks and every commercially frozen herb product on the market. A bunch of basil costs 80 pence and rots in 5 days in the fridge. The same bunch in oil cubes lasts 10 months and tastes better. Your nan didn't need a study. She just had eyes and a tongue. Number 2. The full freezer runs cheaper than the empty one. A freezer with empty space has to cool a lot of air every time you open the door. A full freezer barely loses any temperature because the frozen contents act as their own cold mass. This means a full chest freezer costs less per month to run than a half-empty one. Pensioners worried about electricity bills are sometimes told to unplug the freezer to save money. Wrong advice. The right advice is fill it. Even with milk bottles full of water if you have nothing else. Your nan's freezer was always packed to the lid and her bills were always lower than her neighbors. She wasn't lucky. She knew physics without ever sitting an O-level. Number 1. The freezer inventory list on the door. This is the rule that ties every other rule together, and it's so simple it sounds like a joke. Your nan kept a piece of paper sellotaped to the front of the freezer with a list of everything inside. When something went in, she added a tally mark. When something came out, she crossed one off. 5 minutes a week to maintain. The list meant she never opened the freezer to see what was in there. She already knew, so the door stayed shut, the food stayed cold, and nothing got forgotten at the bottom. A pencil and a piece of paper. That's the entire system. The reason supermarkets prefer you don't keep a list is that without one, you forget what you have, you buy duplicates, you bin the old, and you walk back through their doors 3 times a week. With a list, you go shopping once a fortnight. Once a fortnight is the difference between a comfortable pension and a stretched one. Here's my challenge to you. Pick one, just one of these 25. The straw vacuum trick, the herb cubes in oil, the flat pack stew bags, the door inventory list. Try it this week. Then come back and tell me whether your nan was just being old-fashioned or whether she was running her kitchen like a quiet little engineer who never got the credit she deserved. Mine was. I've got a dozen oil cubes of parsley in my freezer right now and a list sellotaped to the door in pencil. My electricity bill went down, my food bill went down, and the bananas don't get binned anymore. Drop a comment telling me which rule you're going to try first. I want to see whether the straw trick beats the masking tape labels for popularity. Because these weren't just freezer rules. They were the quiet wisdom of women who never wasted a penny, and the supermarkets have spent 50 years hoping you'd forget every single one. Your nan knew. Now you know too.